So before we begin, I want to offer some context. This conversation was recorded in November at a very different time. Since then, the United States has taken direct action against Venezuela, including a military strike and the capture of their dictator/president, Nicolás Maduro, fundamentally altering the political landscape of the country and by proxy, this conversation. Because of that, some of the analysis you're about to hear may feel dated. Predictions might not align with current headlines, and language may reflect things that are no longer possible to happen. But this conversation still matters. And it matters because the voices of Venezuelans matter. Today's guest, Amanda Arroyo, offers context, memory, and lived understanding that even as circumstances change, her insights help us how we got there. Let's get into this conversation. So today we have Amanda Arroyo with us today. We're going to be talking about all things Venezuela. So let's start off with introducing yourself.
Well, hi. I'm so happy to be here talking to you about something that's really important. Like you said, my name is Amanda Arroyo, and I was born in Venezuela, but I grew up in the United States, a little bit all over the place. About my academic background, I have a master's degree in history as well as a master's degree in higher education and student affairs. I've had all sorts of experiences throughout my life dealing in things all ranging from education to working in food insecurity, and as well as the nonprofit sector dealing more with medical issues. So I have a lot of different experiences, and I've had the blessing to be able to work with a lot of different people.
So when it comes to like Venezuela, what are you hearing from your own family? Not necessarily your own family, but Venezuelan people in general. What are you hearing from them?
So I think it kind of runs the gambit, right? A lot of people like to pretend that like the Venezuelan experience is a monolith, much like the Latin American experience, and it just isn't. I do know a lot of Venezuelans who are very right-wing Republican, who are very much, Trump has been the only president to truly fight on behalf of Venezuelans, and so they're pro-Trump. And then some people who see the experience of what's happening in the U.S. and they say, "Wait a second, we've seen this before." So it's run the gambit, but it's been really interesting to see kind of both sides of the equation.
So it's interesting that you said like people have seen this before, and that segues into my next question. So Trump Trump doing what he's doing, like wanting intervention, especially when it comes to Nicolás Maduro and regime change. How does this fit into the larger historical pattern of U.S. involvement in Latin America?
Well, the United States has always been heavily involved within, Latin American politics, dating back all the way, and even before the Monroe Doctrine, right? We've had one of the, as a Venezuelan, I grew up hearing about Simon Bolivar, and one of the things that he, was like, oh, like Simon Bolivar went to the United States and like saw that liberty could be possible, blah, blah, blah. So it's been a pattern of North American and the United States politics really reflecting on South America, but that doesn't mean that we haven't been affected negatively, right? Especially, all the countless different times that the United States has had military intervention and all of these different things. So there's definitely an unfortunate pattern there of the United States involving itself in places where um, it was definitely managing the power to put itself uh, in a better place, right? To take advantage of resources. And to me, in my personal opinion, I see this kind of potential intervention in Venezuela currently as kind of a step in that direction, right? Venezuela is one of the most oil-rich countries in the entire world, and right now, that's one of the things that guides, a lot of these political happenings. And while I believe that intervention is necessary in some capacity, and obviously there's, politics and, international things are kind of a game to play. I think that a lot of people really forget about the millions of Venezuelans that are both uh, at home and abroad who are being very much impacted by the situation at hand.
Right. I wanted to, we've talked about this a little bit offline. Nicolás Maduro, he puts across this persona of like this grandpa, this like, no war, just peace. We've all seen the videos. Um, and like he kind of has like this ignorant bravado about him, like, oh, I'm just a guy, I just want to help my people. You know, as somebody who's Venezuelan, as somebody who is tapped into the Venezuelan community, how would you describe how Maduro is maintaining power compared to the person that he shows online?
Well, I think it's important to note that Maduro was handpicked by Hugo Chavez. Right? Chavez came in, and it was a lot of big promises for the people. Like there was a clear issue with power imbalance, right? There was a clear issue, and there were very much a need. So Chavez took advantage of that. Um, and when you look at how Chavez kind of like managed the country, right? A lot of it had to do with this public idea of taking Venezuela, giving Venezuela back to the people, while on the back, really making it, creating an oligarchy, right? The wealthy get wealthier and the poor get poorer. And simultaneously, just like bleeding the country dry of everything that could have been used to make it better. And Nicolás Maduro, I think that with him, we see somebody who is easily controlled, right? The reason he puts on, in my opinion, the reason he puts on this, oh, I'm just a guy kind of thing is because he really is. He's a puppet, right? He's somebody who was easily manipulated into the role, into the position. And now you do have people who were through the Chavez dictatorship, who were through his regime, and who were able to easily control Maduro, right? We've seen he is a little bit more volatile, even though he does have a level of charisma. He doesn't have the level of respect and loyalty that Chavez did. Um, and he's really just the guy that came after. And for that reason, I don't think he's as smart as Chavez. I think
Very good.
Chavez was smart enough to be able to kind of manipulate the situation in a way that like Maduro can't. And so I think that that's why, in my opinion, the House of Cards was bound to crumble. But I think that what Nicolas Maduro's lack of strategy is why we're seeing that House of Cards crumble so violently.
Right. Right. Now, the $1 million question, I guess, is like if Venezuela was to undergo major political transformation, right? We have this lady Machado who allegedly won the election or did win the election. Maduro refused to give up power. What do you think the process would look like when it comes to like giving up power and turning Venezuela into something completely different? Because the political ideology of Nicolas Maduro and the political ideology of Machado are completely different, night and day. What does that look like to you?
Well, I think it's important to note that this is something that, in my opinion, and to my knowledge, because I don't know all of Latin American history, we haven't really seen, right? Like Venezuela is really in our backyard. And so for that reason, I don't foresee if there is a significant power change that the US will be completely hands off. That's never been their MO and it never will be. And that's just the reality of global politics. Um, if there is a major transition, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of these transitions happen in violence, and I foresee a lot of violence happening as is currently happening. I mean, I literally have, family friends who have been, jailed and tortured in state prisons for being a part of, um, you know, uh, so what I'm looking for, protests.
Right.
Um, so I don't foresee this going down without a fight. And after the dust is settled, It's hard to say because so many people were given the key element of hope by Chavez and by Nicolás Maduro, even though you can quantifiably see the quality of life in Venezuela has gone down drastically. I will share, my family left in 2001 as a temporary thing, but as things got worse, we stayed away and ended up living in the United States permanently. And unfortunately, due to a lot of the loss of basic needs like medication and food and things like that, I have had family members who have passed away directly due to lack of access to, like medical
All
care.
right. I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you feel like if the United States is like, we're gonna use our military and we're gonna get Chavez out of the government, do you feel like Venezuela at this point is disgruntled enough with Chavez not to put up a fight, or do you anticipate there being a legitimate war?
I honestly can tell you I don't know. And I know it's not as satisfying of an
Yeah, you're
answer,
good. Yeah,
but um, there are significant there's significant interest on both sides, right? Like one of the things that Chavez and Maduro have done really, really well is that they have the military on their side, right? They've taken care of the military really well. And one of the key pieces to having control over the government is the military, right? Because that's who's fighting for you. Um, but they've lost control of the middle and the upper class, and they're starting to lose control of the lower class. So they slowly but surely gaining less and less people on their side. And so I think that again, I think violence would happen, but I'm interested to see when, if and when Nicolás Maduro is removed, who is still left to fight for a control of somebody who's not there to protect you anymore.
right, right. There will definitely be a vacuum, a power vacuum there. Um, when you look ahead 5, 10 years, what possible future do you see for Venezuela? And, what signs should we be paying close attention to as all of this ramps up?
I mean, honestly, what I would love to see is I would love to see in again, in my personal opinion, a change in power. I would like to see Venezuela returned back to a country where people can live and travel in and out of peacefully without fear of literally being kidnapped by the government. That's something that I haven't been back since my grandfather passed in 2018. Um, and when I was there, one of the things I did is I had a very heavy moment of grief for my country. Um, and for seeing even, I left in 2001. So from 2001 to 2018, it was just decaying. So I hope that in the future, after the dust settles, that I'll be able to take my children and my family to see where their roots are from, right? I'm Venezuelan from many, 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 many generations, all the way back to the 1500s. And I want my family to have to know that, right? I want my family to have the opportunity to know that and understand that on a deeper level than just the things that mommy said. So I'm hoping to see a Venezuela where there's less violence, um, and where there's less manipulation of the public. And I hope that the Venezuelans living here can see the um, the fact that this is a story we've already seen before. It's something we've lived before, right? We lived through the vitriol of demonizing a group, right? Demonizing groups of people, of this kind of hyper nationalistic idea of what it looks like, of what it supporting your country looks like with this hyper nationalism, right? We've already seen this. We've already seen what it looks like when you demonize the courts for doing their job, when you demonize statespeople for doing their jobs, when you try your best to control the media. We have played this story out already. And we're not the only ones, but it's personal. So I hope that we begin to open our eyes so that we can collectively come together and do better for the next group of people who will like I said, like my future kids, I just want them to know where they're from.
Very good. Thank you so much, Amanda. We have Amanda Arroyo, historian and friend. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, anytime.